What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Kyle with Limitless Power Sports Service and Repair. What I got going on behind me here is a 2004 Suzuki LTZ 400. Customer got my name from a reference. He bought this thing secondhand, rode it a couple times, and it didn't go too well for him, apparently. He believes he's got a problem with the valve train. He said he checked the valve clearances, and he looked at one of the shims, and one of the shims was, I think, a 130 shim, which is just about I think it's one step above being the smallest shim you can actually put in here. So what we're gonna do on this thing has been sitting for a while. We're gonna rebuild this carburetor. We're gonna check out the valve clearances and do a leak down test on this thing and see if we have an issue with the shims. I know right now it's not in time. He has taken it apart, so we're gonna time it up, put it all back together first, check the valve clearances, and do a leak down to see if we happen to have a bent valve, which I'm afraid, the way it's sounding, he just might happen to have a bent valve on this thing. So we're gonna hop in this thing and see what we can find. All right, this is the way it came to me. It does have the seat, the tank, and he brought me all the parts. He had already taken it apart before. You guys can see he's had the cam towers out. Unfortunately, he's got it locked down a little bit. Does have the timing chain tensioner loosened up over here. It's gone and out of there, so I'll have to pull it apart and find out where the rest of that is in the parts he brought me. So definitely want to get this thing timed up here. You know, we got the marks we got to line it up with on the cams. At top dead center, valve lobes out on the cam, and we'll do that by checking the timing mark here, and we'll remove this and we'll turn it over with a socket, and then we'll check for the T mark down there and check for top dead center up here. But first I got to find the nut and spring that go in the timing chain tensioner on that side. That way I can make sure we don't skip any teeth. All right guys, so took a 17 millimeter wrench or socket, spun it over here till we got to the T mark right in the center. Might be kind of hard to focus on that. Okay, and then you can see the cam lobes are facing away from each other. Let's walk around to this side, and you can see that the timing marks on the cam here and here and here and here are perfectly lined up. Has top dead center compression stroke on this machine. So now what I'll do, I'll jump in here and I will check the valve clearances. We know timing's right, and that's a good thing. I'll jump in here and I'll check the time clearances and let you guys know what I find. So on this particular model, guys, you'll find your valve lash and idle speed and all that specification over here on the right side frame. If it's still there, to tell you ignition timing, 10 degrees before top dead center, blah, blah, blah. Throttle screw, fuel, they want 87, pump in it minimum. But as far as valve lash goes, on the intake, it's 0.10 through 0.20 millimeters, which will be 4 thousandths through 8 thousandths on the intake. And the exhaust is 0.20 millimeters through 0.30 millimeters, which is 8 thousandths through 12 thousandths on the exhaust. I like using thousandths. I got this nice little kit right here. It's a 14 blade valve lash gauge set. I think I got it from Parts Unlimited, but I believe you can find this on Amazon also. I'll leave a link down below. So I'm going to hop in, check these valve clearances and see where we're at. Also, I want to talk to you guys about something real quick. I've seen a lot of misconceptions on how to use these feeler gauges. All right, so basically when you're in here, your lobes are pointed straight up away from the bucket. You'll grab your feeler gauge, you'll slide it between the bottom of this cam lobe and the bucket. All right, it's kind of hard to see, but you see it there, okay? This is a 7 thou, it fits, okay? So we know the gap's at least 7 thousandths, so we'll go up to 8 thousandths. All right, now we'll put that there. It does not go. So we know that's 7 thousandths, okay? If it fits, if your valve lash gauge fits underneath your bucket, or between your bucket and your bottom of your cam lobe, that means that is that clearance. People go, oh, it's barely dragging. That's correct. No, that's not correct. If the valve, if your feeler gauge fits in there, it's that clearance. Go up to the next size. If it does not fit, that means the one before that is the proper clearance. If it fits, that is not the proper clearance. This 8 thousandths does not fit, so we know this one's 7 thousandths. This one unfortunately has no clearance at all. So now I'll move on to the exhaust. All right, so I got the cam lobes up on the exhaust side. Let's start at the 8 thousandths, which is the 0.203 millimeters actually. and that does not fit. Let's try the next one, and it's got a huge gap. So now what we'll do, we'll step up to the 9 thousandths clearance, and we'll just keep working our way up until we find out what the clearance is. Like I said, remember, it's till it does not fit. So here's a 9 thousandths one. Okay, we know that one doesn't fit that one. That's got a huge gap. Since I know it's got a huge gap, I'm gonna step up to the 12 thousandths, which is the maximum clearance. Still a huge gap. I have a 15 thousandths. If I go above that, there's no point in even worrying about it. I'll just have to take it out and measure the shim. So here we go, 15. And the 15 just, it fits in there. I guarantee it's probably gonna hold a 16 or 17 thousandths clearance. And I don't have that one because I don't have valves that go that wide. So let's go back to this first one here on this cam, on this lobe, on the exhaust cam, on this exhaust side. So we know 8 thou don't fit. So let's drop it down. Let's go to 7 thousandths. See if it fits. Nope. And we'll go 6. Here's this. Actually, this is a 5 thou. Here's a 5. Nope. I could see, honestly, I could see where the bucket might be being held down there. So we're just going to drop all the way down to, like, let's say, if I can find it here, I'm going to drop down to like a 3 thousandths clearance here, and we'll try that. It doesn't fit. So this one has no clearance, that one has no clearance. So next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and put it back at top dead center, pull the spark plug out, and I'm going to do a leak down test to see if we're leaking out of the intake and the exhaust valves. And if we are, then I'll pull this off. I'll check the shims in it, and we'll see what the valves look like on the retainer side. And if I suspect them to be bent, we'll pull the head off, pull the valves out, put them in a drill, and spin them to see if they're bent. All right, guys, so again, I have lost some footage on this 2005 LTZ 400 Suzuki. Basically what I found when I pulled the head off, I found that the valve actually had got sucked down and had broke one of the valve keeps on top. The little cotter keys were floating around inside. The keeper on the top was broke. So I took the head apart, checked everything else. Somebody had tried to put a new valve guide in there, and they didn't have it in all the way. So that's kind of a scary situation. So I had to go in there and had to tap that valve guide all the way back down flush with it. We got new valves, got new valve keepers, got new valve retainers, all that stuff. So like I said, the retainer on top was broke like this. It had, that valve had dropped in there. How it didn't drop the valve all the way down, I got lucky, I guess. They got lucky and didn't do that. So we replaced the valves, like I said, got new retainers and new keepers for the valves. And now we'll go ahead and proceed to the part where I'm actually putting the head back on. I don't know why I have all these issues. Again, this is the third SD card now. I've reset the GoPro, I've updated it and everything, and I'm still having these issues. So hopefully I won't have many more after this. But again, now we'll go ahead and jump in to the next part of the video. All right, so we finally got our dowel pins in for the cylinder head. So stick these in here. We all know we got the cylinder head already shimmed. So what we're gonna do after that, we're gonna go ahead and place the cylinder head on top and torque it down in a crisscross pattern. And the torque specs on that is gonna be 46 Newton meters, 2 times. The first time is 25 Newton meters, or 18 foot-pounds. And then the second sequence is 46 Newton meters, or what, 34 foot-pounds on the head torque in a crisscross pattern. So I'll put you guys kind of close. We'll stick that on there and torque it all down. You guys might get shook around a little bit, but I got you guys mounted up on my magnetic stand right here on the left side looking into the right. So let's go ahead and get our 2 dowel pins, get those guys lined up in here where they belong. And then let's grab a magnet and pull up the timing chain a little bit so we can put that timing chain guide, slide it in a little bit more, make it a little bit easier on us. That works. That'll work. Bring it in a little bit more. The head's all clean and all that good stuff, so we'll come in here just like this, over the top of the front one, and just slide it on down nice and easy. running into the pipe on accident here. Get my hands in the way. There we go. Whoop. Trying to roll the quad all over the place here. All right, get the head down on there. We're good there. We're gonna go ahead and drop our 4 head bolts in, and we're gonna torque those down like I just said previously. And then the 2 bolts on the side of the head actually get torqued to 12 Newton meters. I think I just beat you guys around there a little bit. So 25 Newton meters to start off. On the front right one. Then we go to the rear left one. Somebody, you know, somebody's been in this motor before, but 25, and then the rear right side 25, and then we'll go ahead and up it to our 46. Bring you guys up here a little bit. And the last one over here. .46. Now we're going to tighten the 2 little 6x10 bolts over here. We're going to torque those down to 10 Newton meters, 12 Newton meters. Either one of those is perfectly fine. So you're going to probably need to run an extension. Come over here and go ahead and tighten those down. And then next we'll go ahead and get the cams in. We'll show you how to time that up and slap the rest of it back together. Also, you know, we turn the crank over by using the 17mm on the stator side, and then you line up the T on the stator with that little mark right here on the inside, and we were already at top dead center, so you gotta remember, make sure you're at top dead center before you go ahead and put this on there. And you guys can see also that the cam lobes themselves are facing away from each other. So just wanted to remind you of that. All right, I'm probably gonna hit the camera quite a bit because I have it set on my lift next to me on my big tripod. I don't have a small one. So we're gonna reach down in here, pull up the timing chain, pull that bad boy up, and then we'll go ahead and stick in your intake cam. What we'll want to line up here on the intake cam is going to be the number 2. Lines up evenly with the cylinder head. Right here, 3 points up. And you got the little lines, hash marks here on your cam that you can see also. And then you want to do your exhaust cam, which you can tell is your exhaust cam because it has the compression release mechanism built on it. Same thing, you're going to end up lining up the 1 and 3 along with these little hash marks right here on the actual cam itself, and then the cam sprocket have 1 and 3. So pull that up, slide it in there, just one tooth off it looks like there, boom, So right there, perfect all the way across the board. Hash marks lined up. Cam lobes are facing away. They're actually facing away from the buckets, opposite of each other. And then next thing what we do, we're gonna go ahead and take our, which are labeled, intake and exhaust. And exhaust. And then we'll go ahead and slap these on, I'm gonna put a little oil on the journals and on the cams. And on the journals here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bolt these down, and we torque these all to 10 Newton meters also. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So when I was putting the cams in, I totally told you backwards and did it backwards. So I went ahead and took them back out just to double check. Should have been the exhaust cam in first, because we want all the slack to be on the timing chain side over here. So when we tighten that up, all that slack is already out. It's not hanging down here on the exhaust side. So we definitely wanna have that. Exhaust first, intake second, that way all the slack from the chain is on the timing chain side. But on top of that note, we're gonna run, well, we're gonna run in this, since he doesn't have all the parts for his timing chain tensioner, we're gonna go ahead and run a manual one. These are pretty easy to adjust. You don't wanna go in there and just yank down on it, get it crazy torque down on the timing chain. That's definitely not healthy for your timing chain at all. So what you do with this is, let me get the bolts here. Go ahead and install it. I have one of these on my exact same motor on my DRZ 400, my 05. They use the exact same motor. So let's get these guys started here. We'll get those in, torque these down to 10 to 12 Newton meters also. Pretty much all your 6x10 bolts are going to be 10 to 12 Newton meters. So let me grab my 5 Allen and torque those down real quick. That should be, oh, that's right, I have it set to 11. There we go. All right, so basically with this, you'll just run this in till you feel it bottom out. You will feel it start gaining tension on there. Right there, I can feel it's getting, you know, I mean, I can still turn it pretty easily. Nothing crazy. So right now, it's pretty tight right there. So what you'll do once we fire this up, I like it just as soon as it gets tight, I'll back it off maybe a half a turn, and then I'll go ahead and push this O-ring up, put the other nut down. It's your lock nut, and I won't lock it. I'll make it finger tight right now, because once we start this up, what we'll listen for you could have a little bit of clatter in there, but you want to hear a little bit of a zing. So when you rev it, it goes zzz, zzz. You'll hear that. If it gets louder and louder, you have it a little too tight, back it off just a little bit until you just get a nice little zipping sound when you do rev it up. He is also missing the upper timing chain guide that holds this in place, so I'll have to probably end up getting that also. But we're just gonna go ahead and put it together without it right now to see how this thing runs. Hopefully it runs just fine. I don't really see it being that big of an issue. Timing chain's pretty tight. You know, it's nice to have that on there because it is a good guide for it. So actually that may be built into the valve cover on this. I don't think it is. Yeah, I didn't think it was on this model, but we should be all right because it's pretty easy to get back to put it in properly. So since we got that done here, what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go ahead and install the valve cover, torque those down to 10 Newton meters also, but we'll take a little bit of silicone and we'll start right here on these half circles or half moons, and we'll put a silicone nice light coat all the way through here on both of those so we get a nice seal when we tighten all that down. All right, so we'll take some of our sealant, just put a nice coat on both corners of this. You can go pretty far, it doesn't matter. And then we'll go ahead and get a nice coat down in here on these half circles. We always just call them half moons. Why? I don't know. Circle, half circles, doesn't matter. Same thing. Make sure there's no chunks in there, guys. I've been wiping a few out of mine. I got this, been using the same silicone tube for a little bit here. This is actually Suzuki's gasket, silicone gasket maker, part number 1216. I have a ton of this stuff. Works good for everything. They do have two separate ones, one for case halves and one for a regular sealant. This one here works well for both. I haven't had any issues in it on the case halves either. But anyways, so there we go with that. That is on there. Now we'll go ahead and install the valve cover. Make sure those guys line up nice and neat. And then, like I said, we'll torque the valve cover bolts down at 10 Newton meters also. And then we'll start hooking up all the other stuff, breather tubes, crankcase vents, all that stuff. Airbox will go back. I'll put the exhaust on. And then I still have to rebuild the carburetor real quick, so we'll do that. I got this guy. Matter of fact, I just brought that over right before when I grabbed the sealant. Let me go on and go ahead and put that in real quick. Because they just had silicone. Who we got it from had silicone and this washer on there. This is what's properly go there. It's just like the crush washers on top. It is different, but it's same. You know, it's the same concept. So we'll go ahead and get this installed properly. And this thing also gets torqued down to 10 to 12 Newton meters. Nothing crazy there. Pretty simple, pretty basic on all that stuff when it comes to the head and valve cover. And that one's actually a 6 mil. Finish torquing this down. So we're gonna throw some fuel in this thing. We're gonna try to fire it up. I got a battery charger hooked up to it. I'm gonna throw it on 100 amp start because battery's just completely shot. He wants to buy one himself, so that's fine by me. I don't mind that. Some people buy the cheaper ones. I like to buy more expensive ones that have a good warranty, a year or two on them at least. Like I said, I use a lot of Striker batteries. They're pretty good battery. I can't complain about them. I have no problem taking them back to the place I get them from if I have any issues with them and swapping them out. So that's a good thing. So I'm gonna throw some fuel in this thing and then we will try to get this sucker fired up. All right, so we got some fuel in this thing. Remember, we may have to adjust that timing chain tensioner. There's a manual one. It's on the other side. So let's go ahead and fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. Still concerned about that valve guide they put in with the movement. May have to go back in and reshim it too, even though I did do a bench test and check it all. So let's see what happens here. We got fuel. Let's turn it on. I'm gonna turn it on prime. We'll turn it on prime, and let me guess, is the fuel petcock leaking too? Sure is. But anyways, we'll make do with that. It should still get enough fuel in it to fire it up, even though it's just barely leaking. We turn the battery charger on 100 amp. Here, real quick start. Got a neutral light, choke on, kill switch on. Oh, clutch switch. And see where the sound's coming from. It sounds a little noisy up top on this side where that valve guide seal or valve guide was put in at. So let's go ahead and grab something to check it out, see what it sounds like. that makes a difference. That's pretty far in. Timing chain does sound pretty good, but that sounds like valve chatter, so I may take the tank back off and go back in and check the shims out one more time. So that's pretty loud up front on the exhaust. I know I don't have to be screaming over my mic, it's right by my neck, but it's just a habit over the sound of the four-wheeler. All right, so it's pretty loud. I'm probably gonna go back in and recheck the valve clearances on there. I don't think I really have too much more to go on the valve shims. Let's see, some of the exhausts were at 340 and I can go up to 350. So that's probably what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna go ahead and probably pull the tank back off, go back in, recheck the shims one more time, valve clearances, double check the oil, coolant levels, and then go ahead and put everything back together and fire it up again and see what we got sounds like. All right, so I got the gas tank off, I got the valve cover off, cams are out, so let's take a look, see what's going on this one. So all my clearances were good on the intake on both sides. Whoop, didn't mean to do that. On my intake on both sides, but this exhaust cam over here had zero clearance. I'm kind of worried because I think this might be the one they fixed. I can't remember. Oh, looks like the shim came out. And that would be because it's probably, yep, shim came out, beat around on the keeper right here. That's all the noise we were hearing right there. That's why there's no clearance. Shim was sitting up here getting beat around on. I was kind of worried about that being such a thick shim. And unfortunately, the only way to fix that is to take the head back off, pull the valve, keepers back out, and put a new one on top. That is a pain in the butt, but it's the way it goes. So I'll have to get this all apart, take it apart, try to fix it, get it back together. All right, so I was actually able to get inside there and with a little deburring tool I have and a magnet and just deburr the edge of that just enough to get that little nick out of there so the shim sat back down in there properly. So it's still a really tall shim with not a lot of clearance at the bottom of that yeah, you know, that thing. But anyways, so all right, so let's got everything back together. Let's fire it up and see if it got the same sound or not. I don't know if it's going to or what. So let's turn this thing back on, start. I'm hoping it doesn't have the same sound, but if it does, just gotta take it all apart again. All right, so give it another shot, let the battery charge a little bit, see if the thing fires back up. I'm gonna turn the idle up a little bit here. Oh, closer. Give it a little bit of choke. There we go. That sounds way, way better. Way, way better. That sounds really, really good. So that sounds really good, actually. Super happy about that. You guys see, even sometimes I can make mistakes, things happen, you know, it happens all the time. We just get lucky because a lot of times we can just edit the stuff out so you'll never know. But you know, I like to show the true things, the struggles we go through sometimes on stuff like this. Like, I know I checked that. It could have been when I went to put the cams in, I just didn't get it in the bucket all the way right and have it sitting flat enough. And when I put the bucket in, I should have went back through, turned it over more, and then went back and checked once I actually installed the cams in the bike itself. That's where I made the mistake, is that when I put the head back on and I put the cams in, I rotated it, but I never went back in to double check my clearances. I should have did that. That would have saved me a lot of headache on this. So now I'm gonna go take this thing for a test ride, see how it runs. I'll let you guys know here shortly. All right, so just got back from a test ride on that 2005 LTZ 400. It runs actually really phenomenal. The petcock does leak, so he needs a new petcock, which I'm gonna leave that up to him. And it does need a battery, like I said before, and I'm gonna leave that up to him to get that also. So I'm pretty happy with the way this thing came out, with all the issues that it had. I'm really impressed that it's so quiet and that it runs phenomenal. It actually runs really, really well. It needs some rear tires because there's zero traction, but it burns through all the gears. It holds high RPM. There's no clicking, clacking, nothing. Thing fires right up and runs amazing. So I'm super happy with that. And I'm sure my customer's gonna be really happy. And it's a very inexpensive fix for him. We're looking at putting a big bore kit and possibly a new head, because I'm just not a fan of that valve guide that I put in there. So I'm a little tentative about that in the future. Could have a catastrophic failure. We'll find out, because those things on eBay go for, I think the heads go from anywhere from $400 to $700. And then of course you always want to put new valves in it, lap them in, and all that good stuff too. And again, if you do buy a head from eBay, make sure it comes with the cam towers, because all that stuff is line board even. You can't switch cam towers to a different head because they're not exactly the same all the time. You can get away with it if you're lucky, but I recommend that you don't do that. Again, guys, remember, drop a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, hit that like, man. Help me blow up my channel. I'm really trying. I know I don't get a chance to post content all the time because I'm gone here and there with the Moto America race series. I'm actually leaving this Wednesday to go to Pittsburgh for a race. We are leading the Superbike Championship right now with Danilo Petrucci, working with Warhorse HSBK Racing, and we're leading the Super Sport Series with Josh Herron by like 70 some odd points, which is awesome. So again, guys, I appreciate you guys coming back, checking it out. If you see anything you didn't like, give it a thumbs down. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. We'll catch you on the next one, guys. We'll see ya.